8 years I've been running my clothing brand, and there are 4 things I wish I could go back in time and have done completely differently from when I first started. No word of a lie, these things would have saved me tens of thousands of dollars and years of wasted time. So straight up, I'm gonna share with you the 4 big failures of mine running my clothing brand over the past 8 years to hopefully prevent you from making these same mistakes in your own brand. I hope you enjoy. Apparel Success is sponsored by my buds over at Design Crowd, and if you struggle with designs, I really recommend that you try them out. You post a project on Design Crowd, amazing designers from all around the world are going to compete for your project. You choose the winner, then you get that design plus revisions. I've literally sold thousands of these designs on my website, and I got them all made through Design Crowd. If you're interested, head over to designcrowd.com/apparel to learn about the special offer that I have for you, or just use the discount code apparel when you post a project on Design Crowd. Okay, so the first big failure with my clothing brand that is really hard to share with you on here because I genuinely have to be very vulnerable is that there was a misalignment in the authenticity of my brand. I want to share with you why the authenticity was off for my brand and why this was such a big deal. My clothing brand represents small town Canada and rural Canada. And all of the ways that we speak here, all of the little experiences that we have living in small town and rural Canada. And even right now, I live in a small town in Canada. I live in Kelowna, British Columbia. All of my friends are small town Canadian. I understand the language that we use here. I understand the way that we speak. It's what we put on all of the clothing. But the issue is that my truest sense of identity, like my truest being and who I am, is very deep, psychological, philosophical, intellectual, ambitious, driven guy. And although there's a part of myself that associates with rural Canada and small town Canada, it's not as much of my identity and who I am as I guess the brand was portraying. And this is kind of hard to admit here, but I believe that there was sort of this misalignment with me as the founder creating this brand for rural and small town Canada and the people that I was trying to connect with who are so deeply identified with it and just being a little bit off there. Like there's this guy called Larry Enticer who's on YouTube and he's just this big social media personality who would, like, if he started the clothing brand that I'm representing, would probably be much more aligned with it and be much more sort of authentic to the exact brand concept that I'm going for. And there's always just been this little bit of stretching that I'm doing to really connect with my audience. And I've always wished that my brand had much more of this like true connection to who I am as the founder. And don't get me wrong here, this brand is definitely an extension of my personality. There's a part of myself wrapped up in it, but it's not as like truly authentic as I'd want it to be. Like in order for me to be Mr. Rural Canada, I have to put that on a little bit. And it's kind of been a little bit more difficult when it comes to creating content because in the beginning, I had to sort of go out of my way to find people that were more aligned with the brand that I was creating than I even was. And that kind of was a little bit challenging. Like it would have been much easier if I was just that person to begin with. The reason why this is such a big issue is because it's so much easier to create content on social media when you're just literally being yourself. Like when there's no filter and you can just be yourself and yourself is true to your brand and all of that just aligns perfectly. All of the brands that I've noticed that are absolutely crushing it have this perfect connection with who they truly are as the founder of their brand and the brand concept that their whole clothing brand is built on. It's so hard to build something for a particular audience if you're not actually a part of that audience yourself to the fullest extent. And so if you look at my clothing brand now, I've had to sort of figure out a content strategy that's still true to me, that will resonate with my target audience as best as possible. And honestly, there are things I probably could be doing that would connect way more with my audience and be way more extreme, but I've had to sort of reel it in and just do the things that are authentic to me. And so the lesson here is that when it comes to your brand concept, make sure you start a clothing brand on something that you truly connect with fully yourself and that you're super stoked about and super passionate about. The second big failure with my clothing brand over the past 8 years was not hiring a talented designer earlier. Even if your clothing brand is based on emotion and lifestyle like mine is, connecting with the Canadian culture, there should still be a really strong aesthetic component to your clothing brand. Obviously, people are going to be wearing this on their bodies. They're going to be wearing it around their friends. They're going to be wearing it out. And one of the biggest reasons that people will buy clothing, and it's always been this way, is because of how the clothing just simply looks. Back when I first started up my clothing brand, I really just wanted to get it out there, and I didn't realize how important creating a nice consistent brand was, having the aesthetics be as good as you can possibly make them in terms of the design quality. And I just kind of wish I could go back in time and have hired a truly talented designer right from the beginning who could just nail that aesthetic for my brand and who I could work with over time to really build the visuals of my brand as good as they could possibly be. Like, what I've noticed the longer that I've worked with different clothing brands is that what really makes a clothing brand successful is when there's a truly perfect storm taking place, where you've got the brand concept and it's in an alignment with the target audience, but then the aesthetics also nailed. Your website quality is good, your social media is good. You need all of these things working together. And maybe your clothing brand has a really great clothing brand concept, but when people go to your website, the designs just aren't very good and people wouldn't want to rock it on their bodies. Even though they love the message that you're coming out with, even though they love the brand concept, the design quality is so important for your brand. The third big failure of mine along my clothing brand journey was mishandling relationships with influencers and celebrities. This happened way more at the beginning of my journey, but at the beginning, when you first start up, you're super desperate to gain some credibility for your brand and make your brand a little bit more valuable. And so I'd reach out to different celebrities and influencers on Instagram in the DMs, and I'd say, hey, I'd love to send you a free t-shirt. Let us know if you're interested. And then maybe they'd get back and say, yeah, they are interested. And then a day would go by and I wouldn't hear from them again. So I'd message them. And then, I wouldn't hear from them again and I might message them again. And it was just so focused on getting the result, getting the picture of them wearing your clothing versus actually just focusing on building the relationship. This is a really hard lesson to learn, but as time goes on for your brand, what's most important with these people is the relationships that you build, the friendships that you build. And I wish I'd just been way more chill, way more calm, and wasn't so overwhelming with these people in the DMs when I first started up. And I was successful in landing a whole bunch of different pictures and things like that, but there are a lot of relationships where I feel like a lot of those celebrities and influencers probably would they probably kept their distance after a while because I was just wanting too much from them. This is something that I'm just so much better at now, having gone through this experience, treating the relationships way more politely, empathizing with them and their situation and maybe their status and the fact that they may get messages all the time, and just not trying to overwhelm them, just being chill about it. And if they don't give me anything in return, that is totally cool. And that has to be your mindset. It has to be your mindset that you're good with or without them and that you're literally just giving them a gift. And if they want it, they can have it. And if they want to support you and help you out, they can do that, but there's absolutely no pressure on it. I'm sure you've seen those TMZ clips of Justin Bieber getting harassed by paparazzi and they're asking him all these fake questions just to try and get a rise out of him. And they want pictures just so that they can get paid for it. And it's you see Bieber and all these celebrities in those situations just be so off put by it, and you want to basically minimize that effect on whoever it is that you're talking to as much as possible. The fourth big failure for my clothing brand journey over the past 8 years was not understanding the numbers well enough early on and not putting enough effort into organizing all of the books and all of the accounting early on. When I first started up, it was a complete scramble, like I'm sure it is for most companies that start up, but it literally took me 4 years to really start realizing that I have to get this under control. And understanding things like the difference between your net profit and your gross profit is going to be really important for you when it comes to running a truly profitable clothing brand. Your gross profit is your profit after your cost of goods sold, and your net profit is your profit after all the remaining expenses. So if you don't know how to record all the numbers for your clothing brand and everything is just confusing and it's all over the place and all that you're looking at is your bank account all of the time to see how you're doing, then you should probably work with a bookkeeper who can get everything organized for you. And you just send them all of the statements every month and they organize it and they give you a profit and loss statement. And you just know exactly where your clothing brand's at every month. I can't believe how long it took me to do that. It's worth every single penny I've ever spent on my bookkeeper, on my accountant, and now it is so insanely organized, and just I know exactly where I'm at every single month. That was a huge part of my journey that I wish I had done earlier. It would have just made my brand so much healthier. If you're thinking about starting up a clothing brand or you're already running one, you've got to check out the Apparel Success Mastermind. It's a monthly subscription where you get access to exclusive live streams every month. All of my courses are in there. There's a community of other clothing brand owners in there helping each other, supporting each other, and it's just absolutely been insane. So you can get access at apparelsuccessmastermind.com and learn about everything that's inside, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.